something, we can have some better projects. If we spend all the money now just because it's a project that's proposed, maybe, you know, when we start decreasing the amount of money that we have in the pot, maybe I don't want to pass up something that's maybe more important. And frankly, you know, another fish study just isn't tops on my list.
Well, would funding the proposals with the exception of 6 and 7 be acceptable to you, Mr. Pinchas?
Yeah, I'd accept that.
That's one of the reasons why Mr. Marr was here. We do plan to work with the district attorney and with some help from the county to track down. We feel that the funds that should be being directed to the Fish and Game Commission are not. And that's why the goggles, we felt that's a good investment. We spend $5,000, $50,000 may come back to us from those goggles in fines over their lifetime. So we also agree, we don't feel it's wise for us to support the Department of Fish and Game, but as an investment, that's a pretty good investment.
I'll support just about anything where you're doing something, but in my mind, a study doesn't do anything because it doesn't. Only a study is good when it leads to a result. These studies aren't going to lead to a result. I mean, I could go out there and look at a creek and say, yeah, there's no fish, and charge somebody $10,000, but that's not going to bring back more fish.
Well, sometimes a spawning survey establishes how many fish are using that particular sub-basin, and that will determine whether funds will be directed to that sub-basin or another.
I mean, the important word you said was sometimes.
Okay, there is a motion to approve the recommended action. I have some comments. I, too, am opposed to the purchase of these goggles because it's a state situation, but I'm going to go for it because these people, and I say these people, I'm not profiling in a racial way, I'm profiling in a criminal way. These people are adaptive. And I'm sorry, when I read the newspaper, I see repeat offenders. And where I want the baseball bat, well, is on the repeat offenders more severely than the first offender. And when these people start adapting and going at night, that's true. They're just crooks. And they're not there for sporting pleasure. They're not there for personal use. They're there for the same as growing marijuana. It's greed, it's criminal, and they need to have their butts kicked. And if we can return some of the money back to the Fish and Game Commission by making this small investment, I am all for it. This is a coastal protection effort as much as stopping the oil wells, the emphasis we put into wave energy. This is a protection of our resources, and I am all in favor of that, along with item 10, in an effort to protect our investment in folks on the coast. That rockfish study has to take place to allow them to continue to exist, and I'm in favor of that also. So as much as I hate to give the state of California money, because as I've said many times before, they're always there to give us the citation, but they're never there to give us the help. I'm going to go for doing this because it's an investment in protection of our resources. If we can drop items 6 and 7, I'm all in favor of the remaining items. So I would ask the maker of the motion to consider that, and maybe the second also.
Well, as the maker of the motion, I have to say that numbers 6 and 7 being dismissed simply because they're studies does not strike me as being a reasonable attitude toward this. This has been vetted by people who know the business, know the requirements out there, know the demands out there, and so forth. I appreciate the comment with regard to the goggles. I think that's very eloquently expressed. But to simply say that we will not support studies because they don't have any immediate effect, my God, I mean, we may as well shut down 30–40% of the work we do here at the county level in the sense of doing things with long-term planning and long-term investigation. We have our water agency director sitting there who's about to embark on studies. If we had 3 supervisors sitting up here saying we're not going to do any studies because we can't be sure that they're going to have immediate kinds of impact, but I think really we've got to have a better perspective on this. I may have some concerns about one or two of these projects here, but I'm not going to try to defend my elimination of them by simply saying I don't like studies with the word redwood in them, or I don't like projects with the word spawning in them. It just is not. It's just not reasonable, and I think here that one could make a better case on some of these other projects without having to make a grand and rather badly based notion. So no, I will not. I will not support it, the change, eliminating 6 and 7 on the grounds advanced here.
Okay, and point of clarification to Supervisor Kovacs, my requests to eliminate those two are not for just studies. It's an effort to keep the fund in a buoyant situation and not eliminate the funds.
Well, I would, if I may, I would concur with that, but I think we've also had the additional contribution here today of saying, hey, there's something happening out there. It's not coming from the supervisors, it's not coming from staff, it's coming from volunteers who are saying, hey, pay attention to something out there where we may be able to get some funding in here. So for the $10,000 involved here, I suspect a little attention to this may in fact compensate for that pretty quickly. So in that sense, we got a benefit beyond the reviewing of the proposals being brought forward. We got a benefit because we're being pointed to something that is, as we were using the term before, there's a bit of a smell there that may have to be noted.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Smith.
Well, I would concur with that. I mean, to select out of the list, you know, everyone's been able to compromise and you know, try to make this work for everyone involved. I think we've had some good commentary. We've talked about the Fish and Game funding issues and why it's critical, even though we would all agree, I think it would be unanimous, that Fish and Game from the state should be supporting all of their efforts, and we shouldn't. But it's not a perfect circumstance right now. So I think we've gotten good reasons from Mr. Martin why we need to do that. I think you can apply the same understanding, although the specifics are different, to both of the spawning survey projects. I mean, this is on 50,000 acres of timberland that is now being managed by Campbell Hawthorne. Campbell Hawthorne has signed off on this. It's imperative that this nonprofit be able to continue to manage this timber property for full productivity into the future. One of the things that they can do is get the restoration efforts on board. They need to get conservation easements, and they can get back to cutting. So I don't know why we would want to single out two timber-related projects on land that's held by a nonprofit. Only half the resources that they asked for were granted or approved by the committee. Why would we want to single them out and say, well, studies don't make sense and we don't need to do it, and single those particular areas out for non-funding? I don't think it makes good fiscal sense. I don't think it makes good long-term economic sense. If we want a timber industry in this county, this is the least we can do to step up with the limited resources we have, to the tune of $5,000 to support 2 survey projects. I mean, this is the baseline data that they're going to do so they can draw down other fish and game monies, state monies and federal monies, to do the restoration efforts that are seriously needed, so they can come up with the actualization of their timber management plan. So to single them out is to, in my mind, is not to not support the timber industry in Mendocino County, because that's what they're all about. So no, I don't think we can move forward to do that. I mean, why set up this contentious issue? Why not all go along with the recommendations of the committee? I think they're valid. I think they've been explored, and we ought